I was born and raised right here in Portland, Oregon. Growing up as an only child and first-generation Vietnamese American, there was a lot of expectations. My parents had kind of taught me that assimilation was the key to the American dream. Fit in, don't rock the boat, do as you're told, get good grades, and everything will be fine. For a long time, that worked great for me. This is me. This is the beginning of my senior year. I was a homecoming princess. I was popular at school. I was a 4-year varsity basketball player. I was gregarious. I got along with people. I used humor to break down all the barriers. I had a great time. I was a good student. I studied really hard. I got straight A's. The thing about fitting in and living up to other people's expectations is that it oftentimes means leaving your most authentic self out. I had this life that I was living, but there was a whole other part of me that was hidden to everyone else and also to myself. My journey is about letting go and the pieces of myself I found when I did it. Later on that year, I started dating somebody on my basketball. We didn't tell our friends, we didn't tell our family. I felt as if I had to live a double life. As the year was coming to a close, it was tearing me apart inside. So much so to the point I felt as if I had to come out. When I did, it felt as if I no longer fit in. It felt as if the idea of the image of the perfect daughter had disappeared. But once I let that go, it also felt as if a whole world opened up to me for a more authentic version of myself to step through. Now, coming summer that year, I was looking forward to something else really huge, living out my dream of being a college basketball player. About 2 weeks before tip-off of my very first freshman college game, I was at an open gym and I blew out my ACL. It was devastating. I remember being on the floor of the gym, holding my knee, thinking, this is it, my life is over. My entire identity was wrapped up in basketball. I didn't know who I would be without it. The next year, my freshman year in college, was full of despair and turmoil. I didn't know who I was. But while I rehabbed my knee, I also found a way to recalibrate my internal compass. Even though my college dream of playing basketball was shattered, when I learned to let go of it, I was able to rediscover these other parts of who I was. I refound my love of art, poetry, nature, photography, all these different things that I had as hobbies growing up. They would always be a part of my life, but they really took a back seat to basketball. And so as I isolated myself in my freshman year, I fell back into this, and I discovered that I was more than just basketball. And then when I moved away to college, it was my sophomore year, and I discovered something entirely new. And it started with homesickness. And not homesick in the traditional sense, but I missed home cooking. So growing up, Mom cooked almost every meal at home. And we ate dinner around the dinner table almost every night. And I didn't realize how rare that was until I moved away to college. And sure, my first year I was eating pizza, burgers, lasagna, and I was like, this is the best. And then my second year I was like, oh my gosh, I miss Mom's cooking. So I phone her up and I'm like, hey, Mom, can I have some recipes of my favorite dishes that you made while I was growing up? And she'd be like, who's this? Because I never once wanted to cook anything. I just wanted to play basketball. So I told her a little bit about what I was going through and how homesick I was. So she, reluctantly gave me some recipes and was kind of like, good luck, click. But, I was living in the dorms, and my dorm room shared a wall with the dorm kitchen, so a communal kitchen. And I started cooking there. And I was cooking for myself, home-cooked meals, and then I was cooking for my girlfriend, and then my girlfriend's friends, and then my friends, and then all the girls in the dorm. And then suddenly I was cooking 5-course meals, 7-course meals, and things got out of hand, clearly. But my girlfriend that I was dating at the time, she goes, Jenny, I feel like the only time I ever see you truly be yourself and truly be happy is when you're playing basketball or when you're cooking. Have you ever thought about being a chef? And I was like, no way, my parents would literally kill me. Because mind you, I was in my second year of pre-med, because clearly, if I wasn't going to be a WNBA player, I was going to do whatever my parents wanted me to be, which was a doctor, of course. So fast forward to the end of my sophomore year, and I phone up my parents, and I say, Mom, Dad, I don't want to be a doctor. I want to be a chef. And that conversation went really poorly. In fact, it went worse than my coming out conversation. Because honestly, when I came out, I think deep down, even though my parents didn't accept it then, deep down they understood that that wasn't a choice. I was born that way. But this was a choice. And that conversation went back and forth over the phone, and I think at one point my dad said, we didn't cross over an entire ocean, flee a war-torn country, work 6 jobs to put you through college so that you could be a cook. And then finally, in exasperation, he gave me some of the best advice that he could have given me. Even though I think it was a fear tactic, it turned on him. He said, listen, why don't you get the worst job you can think of in your field, do it for a year, and if you want that to be your life, then go for it. So that's what I did. I thought, what's the worst job? Red Robin. So I had a friend who was working at Red Robin. I said, hey, Kat, what's the worst job there? And she goes, fryer boy. So that's not, obviously, its technical term, but that was the job. It was an 8-hour shift running the fryers. Running them, cleaning them, all of it. So I was like, sign me up. So I take this position. It's 6 fryers, 12 baskets, no tickets, all verbal calls. It was brutal. And as soon as that ticket machine was cranking, I was hooked. So I spent 2.5 years at Red Robin, moved up, graduated college, moved back to Portland, enrolled in culinary school, did that full-time while working full-time in fine dining. And then I ran the gamut: dishwasher, prep cook, line cook, lead line, sous chef, until I eventually became an executive chef at Reed College in Southeast Portland. This is where I found out something called PTO. And they were like, we'll pay you for 2 weeks to go somewhere else. And I was like, what? Okay. So I decided to take a 2-week trip to Vietnam with my parents. And it was my first time going. And I had no expectations for this trip. But I wanted to eat well, and I wanted to see where my parents grew up. Now, I did both of those things, but something else happened while I was in Vietnam. I felt more at home halfway across the world than I did back here. It was as if the heritage and the culture had embraced me, that I belonged to something bigger. There was a community, and I felt seen. I came back from Vietnam, this is me, with a whole new perspective about what I wanted from my life. But I wasn't sure what that was. It just wasn't what I was doing. And so I decided to leave my career that I had spent over 15 years building. I had gotten to my dream job as an executive chef, and I walked away from it. And what that did was, it was scary, but what that did was it created space. It created space for me to dream, and dream really big. And I had this crazy idea. And this crazy idea had been simmering in my mind for several years. It was having a sports bar that centered women's sports. And I wanted to call it the Sports Bra. Now, the Sports Bra brought together all the different parts of who I am. My passion for basketball, my love of food and cooking, and my desire for authentic connection and community. The definition of home isn't always a place that you return to. It's where you belong. We spend our entire lives going through loss, grief, pain, what ifs, if onlys. But letting go is an art form. It takes practice, gumption, courage. By building the bra, I was able to put all the pieces of myself together to build something for myself. I built myself a home where I belong, where I've always belonged. I was able to find community, find space, find belonging. But not only that, but I built a space for everybody. For anyone who's ever been an athlete, for anyone who's ever felt isolated or alone, for anyone who ever felt like they had to live a double life just to survive. At the Sports Bra, you can find community. You can find acceptance. When we learn to let go, we make room for more. We make room to find a place where we belong. And that, to me, is the ultimate homecoming. I challenge you, I urge you to imagine what you could do if you let go. Imagine your life without limits, without expectations, without fear. This is your life. If there's one thing you take from my talk today, let it be this: it is never too late to come home. Thank you.